get information from both sides. That's how we do it. I'd like to introduce you, Shanita Allen. She is the chair, legislature chair, very dynamic. She's got so much information about legal stuff. So just ask me about the different numbers. She's got everything on 501c3. Okay. I guess everybody's ready to go. Is there anything else you want to say? By the way, I'm Thomas Wheeler. I'm the District 5 Director for Georgia PTA and a board member for the Georgia PTA. And Ms. Allen's also a board member for Georgia PTA. So, any questions about starting up a PTA? Check with me.
Well, thank you, Mr. Wheeler. Thank you so much for putting together such an important campaign forum. We really appreciate all of your hard work and your dedication. So can we give Mr. Wheeler a big round of applause? All right, well, tonight is a very special night. We actually have state's school board superintendents running, and we also have our local school board, Lawrence County Board of Education candidates running. So let's first start with introducing Ms. Freeman. Ms. Freeman is running for the state school superintendent, and we have Mr. Mike Buck here, and Mr. Buck is running for state school superintendent as well. And on my right here, we have Ms. Brooks, Stacy Johnson Brooks, and she's running for Lawrence County Board of Education, and we also have Brenda McCoy Hilton, who is also running for Lawrence County Board of Education. So please give them a round of applause. We are also honored tonight by our special guest. We have Dublin City Schools board members. If you're a Dublin County's school board member, please raise your hand, let us know that you're here. We also invite the superintendent of Dublin County City Schools superintendent. We have any Laurel County school board members available tonight. And how about Dublin High School PTSA? Do we have those members? Woohoo! All right. And any current local, county, and state candidates who are in the audience tonight, just wave and let us know that you're here. All right, thank you, welcome. Thank you for attending. All right, well, we're going to get right into it. First, I'd like to go over a few guidelines. Obviously, this is a campaign forum, and we want to keep it respectable. Each candidate will have 3 minutes to deliver an opening address, just kind of letting us know who they are, what they stand for. And then later, we will have a question. We'll have questions. I have some questions that have been sent in. I'm sure you may have some questions. We'll start with the questions that I have, and each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer the questions. And we have our timer who's available. Let me make sure I have your name right. It's Ms. Cassandra Grace. We'll give her a round of applause. Yes. Wonderful. Okay, so in the interest of time, I'm going to ask you to hold your applause until after the event, and then that way we can make sure that we get in as many questions as possible, because I'm sure you have questions that you'd like to be answered tonight as well. Okay, so let's get started. Why don't we start with Ms. Freeman here on the left, and we'll go from left to right in terms of our introduction. And again, everyone has 3 minutes to introduce and open.
Good afternoon. My name is Denise Freeman. I am from Lincoln County, Georgia. I'm a former classroom teacher of reading in middle school. I'm a former board member of 8 years. And the reason I'm running for state school superintendent is for 27 years I've traveled around the state of Georgia working as an advocate for public education. I believe in public education 100%. The major problem with public education is that in 1985, QBE was founded and it was began. But since 1988, QBE has never ever been fully funded. It was shorted almost $1 billion in 1988. And since 1988, QBE has been short $1 billion up until the present time. That's no way to run a school system. We have teachers who are professionals who aren't being treated as professionals because they're not involved in the decision-making process. But they're the ones who are on the front line every day educating our children. And they're the ones who are suffering cutbacks. And we also have our support staff, who is just as important as our teachers. That's our custodians, our bus drivers, our food service workers, our paraprofessionals. They are the paramount of what keeps us functioning every day in public education. You know, some of my counterparts, as I was talking with some of the people here tonight, I want to correct something. Everybody on the Democratic side who's running for state school superintendent have not had experience in the classroom. Ms. Wilson has not had experience in the classroom. Ms. Alicia Thomas Morgan has not had experience in the classroom. They have not been classroom teachers. And I think that's going to make a difference in who our next state school superintendent is. I also believe that we have to have a state school superintendent who's going to listen. During these shortcomings of our budgets where we've had to cut back, we have lost over 9,000 classroom teachers and almost 9,000 additional staff as well. We've got to fully fund education. That way, we will guarantee that every child gets a quality education and that every child can go to college if they so desire and be successful and not have to take remedial courses. It is criminal for a student to graduate from high school, go into college, and have to take remedial courses. So we need every child, whether they choose to go to college, technical school, or whether they choose to be an entrepreneur and start their own business, they need to have the tools that they need to be successful. Again, I'm Denise Freeman.
Good evening. I'm going to give this a whirl without the microphone. Can y'all hear me okay in the back? All right, I'm going to use my high school principal voice. First of all, thank you for hosting us. You know, you're my best friend because you're willing to come out and become informed. But I thank you for being here and for trying to listen to the credentials. Again, my name is Mike Buck, and I want to be your next state school superintendent. The first question I always get is, why? Why do you want to be state school superintendent? Why do you want to run for this office? Well, I'll tell you, this is a true story now, and most of my true stories are in fact true. On New Year's Eve this year, I went ice skating with my children. I've got small children, that's another story. I've got twin girls who are 10. Little man, he's 7. I love him. He's a felon, but he's mine. But they wanted to go ice skating. I went ice skating. And you know, the Olympics were kind of inspiring me. I tried a triple sow cow, and I came up with one sow cow short and fell and broke several ribs. Put me in the hospital. While I was in the hospital, I found out a couple of things about myself. One, I don't like daytime television. Two, I had time to start researching the announced candidates for state school superintendent. At that time, I was not in the race. People had approached me about it, but I wasn't in the race. I prayerfully considered it with my wife and made the decision to enter for one reason and one reason only. Our children. Our children. They are why I'm in this race. I want to be a champion for our children, our parents, our educators, and our communities. Next thing, what is your platform? Why? Why should we vote for you? I'm going to hem it up with the 3 C's, and I'll talk about each of those a little bit. The first C is character. Both my own personal character and the character that I believe we've got to develop in our young people. You know, the academic curriculum, we got to be good at that. And I'm okay with that. I'm so competitive, it hurts. I am okay being held accountable. But you know, there's another part of education that I think is just as important. I call it the curriculum of life. Do the young people that spend 12, 13 years of their lives with us, do they become the kind of people we want living in our neighborhoods? Taking care of us when we get older? How about dating our sons and daughters? That's the curriculum of life, and I believe it's just as important as standardized test scores. Second C, credentials. Please, please, please look at the credentials. I've got 4 degrees, all in education, including my doctorate from UGA, go Dogs. I've been an elementary principal, a high school principal. I've been assistant superintendent in a district, and for the past 3 years, I've been the chief academic officer, chief of staff at the Georgia Department of Education. And finally, my commitment. I am not a politician. I am a seasoned educator who's dedicated his entire adult life to young people and public education. That's my platform. Please check out my website, buckforsuperintendent.com. Thank you.
I can't sit down either. My name is Stacy Brooks. I'm candidate for Lawrence County School Board, District Number 1 here in Lawrence County. And I want to tell you just a little bit about myself. I'm a wife and mother. I have 4 children that attend Lawrence County schools. I have an elementary student, a middle school student, and two high school students. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. I'll be glad to answer any of your questions afterwards, but I want to make sure that I address a few things. My platform is what I call the 4 T's: teachers, textbooks, technology, and transparency. I chose to run because we do not have a transparent board at this time, and I want to focus on some transparent issues that I have noticed since dealing with the school board. I have been a parent-teacher advocate for several years within our system. I'm president of the PTA, so I commend the PTA. I appreciate them hosting this, and there is some differences between PTA and PTO. But a wise preacher once told me, and I'm going to use his example tonight, about truth. Truth is truth. Truth doesn't care who you are. It doesn't care what your last name is. Doesn't care if you're Democrat, Republican, nonpartisan. Democrat doesn't care about your feelings, truth doesn't care about your feelings or emotions. And it's often harsh, but it's necessary. And I want to share some truths with you about Lawrence County Board of Education that were determining factors in my running for Lawrence County School Board. The first one is our school board is not utilizing the funds that are being allotted for them. For years, teachers have been begging for professional development. We want to complain about test scores being down, but yet this board has utilized half of the funds that it was given for professional development. $150,000 of the $300 in the last 2 years alone has been utilized for professional development. Since 2010, our teachers and staff have been furloughed 36 days and had 2% of their salary taken on two separate years. That means our children have missed 7 weeks of instructional days in the classroom. That is a major concern. This board neglected to listen to its financial directors and plan accordingly, and our students are suffering because of it. In the past 5 years alone, our school board has only utilized half of the $800,000 set aside for textbooks. That's a problem. I have parents call me every day. I can't help my children with their homework. We don't have textbooks. We don't have technology. That's because the board that we have in place now has used 10% of the money that was allotted in SPLOST funds for technology. Out of $1.2 million in technology, they've utilized $100,000 for student technology. I have a problem with that. This board has been made aware of tremendous needs at all of our campuses and yet refused to address them. They were prepared to put our county in $50 million debt 2 weeks ago for 2 new middle schools, but refused to fix leaky roofs and computers that don't work. Those are just a few of the truths that I have that I'm addressing as a school board candidate. My number is always available. My door is always open. I encourage you, as I have everyone else for the past 5 years working with PTO, to call me if you have questions or concerns.
Hi, I'm Brenda McCoy Hilton. I am a daughter, a mother, a grandmother, a widower, and I am an educator. I taught in the Lawrence County school system for 30 years. I've also taught at the Dublin Center for a few years as an adjunct teacher. My field is math. And I know many people in my district because I either taught them or their children. I have 3 degrees from Georgia Southern, including the educational specialist, and I'm a nationally board certified teacher, which was not an easy task. I have 2 daughters who are also teachers. One teaches at East Lawrence with the special needs children, and my other daughter teaches at West Lawrence as a math high school teacher. The issues that I have with the school system are a lot of the issues that Ms. Brooks has. We have worked together, or she has shared a lot of information that she has gathered. And some of the things that I would like to improve in Lawrence County if I were elected a school board member. I would like to spend the entire amount budgeted for textbooks to purchase the needed textbooks and other instructional materials. I know how difficult it is to teach a class without math textbooks. Because when I started teaching in 1975, we did not have textbooks. And I was crazy by the end of that first year trying to find materials to teach with. If we don't have enough money to purchase textbooks, I say look for it in other places, such as the reserve fund. I say use the money allotted for the SPLOSH to fund the technological infrastructure that allows the access to the internet needed in all of our county schools. Use the SPLOSH funds to purchase new technology that would work with the upgraded infrastructure. Use the budgeted funds for teachers in-service training to facilitate their use of the technological devices and resources. If elected, I will donate my pay for serving on the board to provide teachers with needed technological devices. I have made a career of putting students first and working with their education, and I hope to continue this by being on Lawrence County Board of Education.
At this time, we will actually get into the actual questions. And again, I'd like to remind our candidates that we have 2 minutes. So we have our timer, again, who's doing a very nice job. And she'll give you a warning at 1 minute, and then another one at 30 seconds, and then she'll hold up a stop sign, and that will let us know that we have come to an end so that we make sure that we get to all of our candidates. Okay, all right. So the first question, and we'll start from the left and go on to the right. Again, we have 2 minutes. The first question is, what place do you think political parties have in the state school superintendent's role? What place do you think political parties have in the state school superintendent's role? And you can use the microphone there.
Once you become state school superintendent, it doesn't matter if you were elected as a Democrat or as a Republican. What matters that you do your job and that you make sure that teachers have the resources that they need to do their job, and that students have the resources that they need to learn and to become productive citizens. So it doesn't matter about being a Republican or a Democrat. Once you're in that seat, you're going to take care of everybody, because that's your job, is to make sure that all the laws are implemented, that policy and procedures are followed. So you're not going to be there wearing a hat that says, I'm a Democratic state school superintendent. I'm going to be wearing a hat saying I'm an advocate for education, and I'm going to make sure that all policies and procedures are carried out. And then I'm going to advocate to make sure that private schools does not destroy public schools in this state of Georgia. I'm going to advocate for public education, because when we pay our tax dollars, we pay them to improve and to keep our teachers and students going in public education, not for privatization. Privatization belongs not in the public sector. I don't have anything against private for-profit charter schools, as long as my tax dollars for public education doesn't pay for it. because that's like taking care of McDonald's with public education money. If you're on the stock market, then you can take care of yourself. And for those who don't know, for-profit charter schools are on the stock market, and the buy-in is about $500,000.
I'm like the PTA. I am nonpartisan when it comes to how I will lead our school systems. I'm responsible for 1.7 million students across Georgia, and as the state school superintendent, you've got to represent each and every one of them. My goal will be for every student to graduate high school prepared for college and career. Every single one of them. How do we do that? What are we going to do to help all of those students graduate prepared for college and career? We do that by helping them to find the relevance of what they are learning. Learning by doing is the way to accomplish that. My goal is for us to absolutely lead the country in student achievement. That's a lofty goal, but it's one that we can all accomplish if we work together. When I was a high school principal, I was a high school principal for all boys and girls. As a district assistant superintendent, it was my job to be responsible for all boys and girls. Party affiliation should not enter into it. We have to take care of all of our boys and girls, the educators, our parents, and our communities. We've built out over 200 new courses over the past 2 years. They're career tech type courses which allow our students to get strong standards in a work-based learning type environment. We help young people to find their passion. If you want to improve the graduation rate, help young people find their passion. If they find their passion, if they're learning by doing, if they believe there's a caring adult in that building, then they're going to stick around, and we're going to help them become productive citizens. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll ask of the local school board members, same question, what place do you think political parties have in your role?
Well, as a school board member, actually, to even qualify for school board, you don't declare a party. It's nonpartisan. So as far as I'm concerned, as a school board member, I represent all children in Lawrence County. That's one of the biggest issues and complaints that I have with our current system. We have certain board members who only want to represent certain schools, and that's a travesty. As a school board member, we represent all children in Lawrence County. Not east side, not west side, we represent Lawrence County. So I believe that as a school board member, we should not be asked to only dedicate our time to one school or another. It shouldn't matter if we go to Northwest, Southwest, if we go to West Lawrence Middle, East Lawrence Middle, East Lawrence Primary, East Lawrence Elementary. We as board members are dedicated to advocating for all students in every one of our schools. And as a school board member, I will continue to do what I've been doing for years, which is advocating for teachers, for being the voice for those who do not have a voice within our system. I will continue doing what I've done as PTA president. I will be a liaison between our parents, teachers, and administrators for all of our children. I do not see party lines, just like I don't see a divided line that some of our candidates see between east side and west side. I don't see that imaginary line that they see. I see needs for all of Lawrence County, and that is how I will serve as a school board member.
I agree with Ms. Brooks. Parties should not matter, Democrat, Republican, or otherwise. I think your qualifications and your dedication to the students will be your most important job. That you are concerned with all students and all teachers, and that you are fair to all of the students in Lawrence County.
I see that we have another candidate. I'd like to, would you like to give us about 1 minute of an introduction? Go and I'm sure you'll follow.
My name is Jarita Forehand Mays, that's M-A-Y-S. I have been a teacher for going on 20 years. Have a degree in curriculum instruction, a specialist degree in curriculum instruction, Also have a leadership degree, was a manager for a major retailer for about 15 years, and then switched over once I found out what my true passion and love was, which is education.
And right before you came, the question was, what place do you think political parties have in the state school superintendent's role? You have 2 minutes to answer that question.
What place is it, I'm sorry?
Do you think political parties have in the state school superintendent's role?
Well, it depends on what you mean by political parties. I think that in all stakeholders should be a part of state school superintendent, meaning that everyone should be able to voice their opinion in terms of, because I think that it's important that we get information from all different areas, because there's a different, what we call a different culture in each and every area, such as there's the rural areas, which oftentimes get forgotten. There's your city, and even in the city and the rural, you still have a difference in mix in terms of, what I mean by that, meaning the needs of that community. How long did I have? We have to say that.
Well, we actually have a timer, and she's going to hold up, since you all have 2 minutes, she'll hold up the 1 minute signal, and then 30 seconds, and then the stop.
Okay, so I had 1 more minute left, so I might as well utilize that minute and capitalize on it. Meaning that, such as, if you talk about CTAE, careers in technology, maybe in certain areas, we're not taking advantage of that, because our children need to become more technical minded. Some children may not want to go to a 4-year college. Some children may want to have a 2-year college. We also know that technology is changing greatly. It's changing our lives greatly. So we need to be able to educate our children so that they can meet the needs of whatever the labor is going to be required for the future, so that we would not be behind globally. Because right now we're struggling globally when we talk about education. 30 seconds. So what we need to do is to help our children starting at a very young age, starting, say, kindergarten, on up through high school, to where we're able to pinpoint careers that that child is interested in and capitalize on that and give them as much enrichment as we possibly can in those areas that they're interested in. Pairing with our colleges to prepare them so they can be successful in college at a very early age, meaning during high school, 9th grade, 10th grade, even as far as middle school, so that they can be successful once they get to college, so they will not have to take remedial classes or fail out of during their freshman year.
So the second question is, how do your personal and professional experiences make you the ideal candidate for state school superintendent? We'll start with you, Ms. Freeman, and then we'll circle here.
Say the question again.
How do your personal and professional experiences make you the ideal candidate for state school superintendent?
Because I'm well-rounded, well-versed in education. For 27 years, I've worked in the classroom. I've worked as an elected school board member. I've also worked for 27 years traveling around the state of Georgia as an advocate. I can tell you people here in Dublin, Lawrence County that I've worked with in the past, helping them to establish an after-school tutorial program. The late Ms. Dolina Joyner, Mr. Bostic, Mr. Moss, Reverend Vaughn, and others, because they had a desire to have something for their children after school. So I traveled here from Lincoln County, which is about 3 hours and a half for me to get here. And I never charged them. I did it because it was the right thing to do. We're talking about CTAE classes. The wonderful thing about CTAE classes is that so many schools in rural Georgia had to cut their programs. They had to let their automotive technology programs go. They had to let their computer technology classes go. They were only able to keep 1, 2, or 3 of their CTAE classes. This was detrimental to our students. That's why I'm going to fight for full funding of public education. All this other stuff is really good and it sounds wonderful, but as a board member, I can tell you, the bottom line is the budget. You can't do anything, buy classroom books, pay teachers, raise the poor salaries that we give our bus drivers, our custodians, and our food service workers. These people practically work for free. because by the time they get their paycheck and they pay their insurance, they only have a few dollars left. So basically, they're working just for their benefits. So that's what I will do. I will continue to advocate, and I won't have to begin. I will continue the fight.
This is a huge decision that you all have to make. You are selecting the CEO, the Chief Executive Officer of a huge operation. It's a $7.4 billion annual budget. 1.7 million students, so approximately 125,000 students. I believe you have got to have experience and training to lead an organization of this type. I've already gone through my 31 years in public education. I've been an effective leader at every single level. For the past 3 years, I have been serving as the Chief Academic Officer at the Department of Education. I believe public education. I came through public education. My children are in public education. You know, I own a home. If I have an electrical problem in my home, you know who I call? An electrician. If I've got a plumbing issue in my home, I call a plumber. I think it is vitally important that whoever is leading this organization, they have credibility in the field, that they know how decisions made at the State Department level, how it impacts children at the end of this food chain, if you will. And actually, it should be the other way around. Every decision I make will be based on, is it good for our boys and girls? I've got the credentials. Please check out the credentials of everybody. Prayerfully consider the candidates and look at the credentials as you would if you were hiring a CEO for a $7.4 billion corporation.
Well, I think my personal and professional experience have made me a very well-rounded candidate. As far as my personal experience, I am a wife and a mother. I have 4 children, as I stated earlier. I have children I have a child in elementary, middle, and 2 in high school. I have a unique perspective that no other current board member or candidate for my seat has. I see the needs every day, not only on a personal level, but because I substitute teach in the classroom and I'm a 100% full-time volunteer, I see the needs every day in our classroom. I see the resources that we are lacking. I see the teachers, I see the morale dropping. It's heartbreaking to me. We are losing not only wonderful teachers, we're losing great students as well, because people are losing faith, and they've already lost faith in our Lawrence County school system. As a board member, I want to restore that faith in our system. It is a travesty that we have children leaving to go to private schools because they cannot get the textbooks and the basic resources that they need in our classrooms every day. I think we are failing our children repeatedly in this area. Also, I'll continue doing what I've been doing for years. I was asked if I could balance a budget, and yes, I can. I balance a budget. My husband and I prayerfully considered before ever running this. We balance a budget in our home. I've said it before, I'll say it again. A budget is a budget regardless how many zeros are on the end. The same principles and techniques apply. You need somebody with a common sense approach who has something to lose. My children are affected by every single decision that this school board makes, and my children, along with countless others, are being failed repeatedly by a board and a system who basically has said they don't care. We're more interested with stockpiling money than giving our teachers what they need.
As a teacher, as a retired teacher, I can identify with the teachers that are in the classroom. I know what it's like to be under pressure, to teach without the books, to teach worried about if you have reached all of the students, to teach worried about being evaluated and not sure exactly what the evaluator, the person that's doing the evaluating, is looking for. I also know from my children who come home and talk to me about what is going on in the classroom today, what it's like in the classroom, although I've been out for about 10 years now. And then I deal with my grandchildren. I am helping to educate my grandchildren. I have one granddaughter who is being taught at home through Georgia Virtual School, and I have learned what that is like. Before I retired and I was working with her, I thought that it was not a good idea to homeschool students. And I have found out what it is like to be a homeschool teacher, because I've helped her this year. She had reasons to come out of the public school, which I was not 100% sure was the right thing, but working with her this year, I found out that there are other options from being in the classroom, and it was the right thing for her, but it's not the right thing for everyone. I have grandchildren in school that I also help. So I have seen school from all the sides. Thank you.
I almost asked for you to repeat that question, but I think I have it. From a personal, I think you said personal standpoint and professional. Very good, thank you. I'm going to start out with the reason why I'm one of the best candidates, because I think that all the people that I see on our candidacy for a state school superintendent, I can say that they care about children. And I think that they really have a true passion for children. But I think that when it comes to the best candidacy, the reason that I believe that I am the best one is because I have had the experience of working in areas where you would say in the affluent areas, the middle class areas, and in the poverty levels. And there's such a wide gamut and variation in Georgia. It's going to take someone that's willing to work with people, because one person cannot do it. I have that ability to do that, to work with people, because I love people. I love children, and I love everybody. I don't care whether they're Democrat, Republican, they can be boogaboo. I do not care. As long as it is going to promote children and we get our children's future ahead of the game of all the other states. That's what I'm concerned about, your child. When I think about your child who I don't even know, and no matter what it takes, that's what I think about at night when I go to sleep at night. How can I get to another county? There's 159 counties. I have already said, my first 4 years, I'm going to go to at least 40 counties per year, because it's that important, because every county is different. Also, the fact that I have the teaching ability, I have the curriculum, I also have the ability to, what I would say, is to be able to know how to solve problems. Georgia has major issues. We lost 9,000 teachers, 9,000 in one state. That's ridiculous. We need to learn how to work the opposite way around. We need to supply all the needs for our children first with the budget, and then work backwards. If we have enough money for administration, then we can add administration. But the children should come first. The future should come first. Thank you very much.
I've heard mentioned Common Core. I've heard, I think maybe I heard teacher keys. And so, in moving, with our next two questions, I'm going to give you just 1 minute, so you'll get 30 seconds, a signal, and then you're done. I'm going to throw out a few terms, and then basically you can just say how you feel. I have a few questions around, the budget, teacher keys, assessments, and I'm sort of going to bundle those questions. So these are the terms that I'm throwing out, and you have a minute to just tell us how you feel about them. I think I heard mention the teacher keys performance, teacher keys, and that would be the instrument that appraises teachers and their performance. It's basically their performance evaluation. I think I heard Common Core, perhaps, and I believe I heard the budget, and I may have heard, or maybe we're going to start thinking about the assessment. I'm not sure if we're still doing the park assessment in Georgia, but maybe there's another assessment on the mounds. And then there's the college and career Readiness Performance Index. So I threw some terms out there, and I won't ask you to put them all together, but just basically just tell us how you feel within 1 minute.
Okay. Common Core. Common Core is not perfect, but it is a roadmap that we're using to bring commonality amongst all 50 states. So no matter where your child goes, if you up and leave Georgia, you can go to New York and your child will still have the same basic skills taught to them. That's good for military, it's good for people that move and have transition situations. Common Core can be adjusted, and it needs to be adjusted for a couple of different reasons. It needs to be adjusted because it needs to meet the need of the individual child. Right now, it's just cookie cutter, saying that every child needs this. Well, there's some children that come and they already have those basic skills. There's some kids that are falling behind the basic skills. So we need to adjust it so we can reach the whole gamut of them and bring everybody up to where they need to be. Teacher keys. Teacher keys is a lot of work. It ties teachers down. The evaluation system is not fair. It has students rating teachers, even if that student is a wayward child that has a file this thick, can rate that teacher. And you know that they're not going to rate them fair and just based upon how many times they've been. My time is up. Thank you very much. I'll see you afterwards if you need.
Teacher, I'll start with Common Core. Common Core was never fully implemented, and teachers started in August, and some of them just got to school and they were said, we're going to start the Common Core. So they didn't have time to really learn the process. The implementation process has been horrible. A lot of school systems have applied for waivers at the State Department. Let's talk about Teachers Keys, which is the evaluation tool. This tool is great maybe as I traveled around the state of Georgia. Superintendents have said maybe it's good for first-year teachers, even up to third-year teachers, but it's not good for teachers after that. Let's talk about CCPRI, the testing apparatus and some of the other testing. You know what? They're not compatible with Common Core. Common Core testing apparatus is not being used because of its expense. And you got to think about it. All testing scores across the state of Georgia right now are down. All the scores are down, and it's not the fault of the teacher. It's the fault of the people who didn't include the teachers.
All right, here it goes. Common Core. I strongly support the standards we're currently teaching. If we change now, it would be the fourth set of standards our students had to learn, our teachers had to learn how to teach in a decade. That is unfair to the teachers, but more importantly, it's unfair to the kids. My opinion, however, is not the most important. We surveyed teachers, 11,000 teachers. 70 to 75% of them support or strongly support those standards. The CCRPI, the old accountability system under AYP was pass-fail, and it occurred on math and English language arts test a snapshot in time. The CCRPI looks at multiple measures, and it can become a roadmap for school improvement. Under AYP, you got no credit. If you started at the 30th percentile, moved your kids to the 60th percentile, but didn't hit the bar, you were a failing school. With this instrument, you get credit for improvement. It becomes a tool to help schools get better, not a way to hammer schools.
That's a lot to cover in a minute, and I can sum it up with just a few words. Let our teachers teach. We're tired of standards. Do I have any teachers out there? I hope I do. Teachers need to be allowed to teach. We place too many standards on them. They're too worried about evaluations. They're too worried about administrators docketing for this. Now they're worried next year because in 2 years their pay is going to be documented. If they're documented, they're not doing something according to these standards. I could care less how far a poster is on a wall from a light switch. Let these teachers teach. We will not see our scores go up until we allow teachers to get back to the joy of teaching. We are putting too many restrictions on our teachers in the classroom, and our children are suffering. I hope on a state level that this can be changed, and changed soon. I know it's frustrating to keep changing, but you know what? Find something, get some teachers involved. But to sum it up, let our teachers teach and quit grading them on a system that is failing. We cannot expect our teachers to produce students they need to produce when we are too busy giving them standards and not giving them the resources they need to teach.
Amen, Miss Brooks. I say let the teachers teach. I have a sister who is also a teacher, and she's been teaching about 21 years. And she has been stressed this year to the max. She came over to my house this week and asked me to help her evaluate herself. I said, my Lord, girl, you know what kind of job that you've done. She's taught every one of my grandchildren to read. She knows how to teach, but she's under so much pressure that I don't know if she's going to be able to make it to the end of her retirement. She does not need the teacher keys. I do agree with Miss Brooks. There are teachers in the beginning that need a lot of mentoring, but they need help and not pressure.
Well, thank you very much. We just have one. We have lots of questions, but I have one more to go. Basically, it's going to be your platform. Do you have a platform? Any issues you want to bring to the forefront, or changes you want to make? You have 1 minute, and we'll start with Ms. Mays.
Just 1 minute. I do have a platform. My platform is teamwork, first of all, because teamwork is what will make the dream work. One person cannot do it alone. We must teach our children how to work together, so what better way than to have a role model with us working together as state school superintendent. Multiple heads, as you can see, we both hit key points, and we all work together just in this presentation. You saw it yourself. Second thing, my platform, 5 things. I have discipline. We have discipline in the classroom. You cannot teach a child if a child is not able to control themselves and disrupt the classroom, or stop disrupt the classroom so teachers can teach. We need to work on that. Leadership. We need to train our leadership so we can work together. It needs to be a state leadership training so that everybody's on one accord doing the same thing in terms of leadership, helping and supporting teachers and going in the right direction for the state of Georgia. And then also accountability. Stop making teachers just accountable. Every stakeholder should be accountable, and we need to make sure that there's measures in there for every person, from the state school superintendent to the local school superintendent to the teachers to the administrator, every stakeholder, and that also includes parents. And then my time is up. Thank you.
Number one, I want to make sure that education is fully funded across the state of Georgia so that schools and teachers can do what they do best, and that's teach without having to spend their own money. And that's the wonderfulness of our teachers and how professional they are across the state of Georgia, because they pull money out of their pocket to make sure that students have what they need to be successful. I want to make sure that our students have the tools that they need when they graduate from high school, that they graduate with the tools to be successful. Our state budget right now is $7.9 billion. But what you may or may not know is that there's a wonderful guy who's head of our finance department there. His name is Scott Aukinson. He takes care of our budget. So you can have a CEO. I work for one of the largest companies in the country and probably internationally, and that was Southland Corporation. I not only work with $7 billion, but probably a whole lot more than that, I can tell you, with a lot more employees than there are at the State Department. So I have the leadership ability, I have the financial background, and I'm capable and willing to be your next state school superintendent.
All right, I'll reiterate my platform of character, credentials, and commitment. But I'll hit on some other key points. 1, the single most important variable in how successful students are going to be once they enter the classroom is the classroom teacher. We have absolutely got to attract, retain, and train the teachers to the best of their ability. A talented teacher will move students. We've got to support them. We've got to train our leaders to help them develop cultures of success in every building. Cultures of success. We get great teachers, provide them quality leaders, give them the resources they need. We harness the collective power of the home, the school, and the community, because we will never be as good as we could be if you don't get the home, the school, and the communities working together. Good teachers get the job done despite the curriculum, despite the resources. Let's quit treating them as second-class citizens and restore pride in the profession.
I mentioned earlier that I have 4 T's: teachers, textbooks, technology, and transparency. Teachers first and foremost. We need smaller classroom sizes, not more buildings to look nice. We need smaller classroom sizes. We need to invest in teachers. Teachers educate our children. Textbooks. We need to spend money that is allotted for textbooks on textbooks. We cannot expect our children to succeed. We cannot expect our parents to help them at home when they do not have a book to take home. I don't know about you guys, but the way they have a Common Core and standards now, the way my 5th grader does math is nothing like I did math in school, and I can't teach her the way the state wants her to be taught if I don't have a textbook at home to show me every one of those steps. We do not have textbooks, we do not have technology, and we most definitely don't have a transparent board. And that has been the downfall of our school system in Lawrence County. I stand first and foremost for transparency. Put an end to good old boy politics and get back to standing up for the education of our children.
I say good old boys hit the road. And I have one more thing to say about the Common Core that I didn't think of just a minute ago. Because my daughter teaches math, and she told me that the Common Core is not what you need in the math classroom. And if she tells me that, I believe her. Because I have not tried to teach with the Common Core, but I believe her in all of her advice with the schools. And I say, use our common sense. And that we should not have any more furlough days for Lawrence County. And that we need our emphasis on putting school textbooks in the schools before we worry about building. Stop building and to use the buildings that we have, repair them if we need to. And we do need a transparent board. And to use our common sense in all that we do in the boardroom.
All right, well, thank you all for coming. We just have, I know we're looking at the time, we started, just a little behind, but I think we're on track now. You have 2 minutes to just close out, tell us what you want to know about yourself, and you guys get to go home and enjoy your families. Okay, we'll start with you.
First of all, let me thank you so graciously for coming out and spending time out in such a busy time of year for you. So I greatly just want to say I appreciate you, because that shows that you have an interest in what is coming forth in terms of when we talk about politics. Secondly, I want to say that I could have been in Atlanta tonight, which is so much closer to home for me. But you know what? I want everybody to know that every county counts. And I don't say anything I don't mean. Every county counts. I know that there's several of our teams that's in Atlanta because they think that's going to get them votes. It's not about votes. It's about our children. It's about our children having a future. It's about our children being successful and able to compete in this global society that is changing into. Things are not the same. Please don't be blindsided. Things are not the same. They are changing. And either we need to change as a state and get ahead of the game, or we're going to get run over. We have business companies that's trying to leave our state right now because we cannot fulfill the labor that they need, which is no longer the manual what Georgia used to be. Georgia is no longer that. We are now becoming a technology state, believe it or not. The corridors that's being built between Atlanta and Athens is going to provide so many thousands of jobs, but Atlanta, or not Atlanta, but Georgia at this time is not going to be able to meet them if we don't prepare for the future now. So what I would say is take a hard look inside of you, and then take a look at your children and think about their future. And when you go to the polls, think about someone who is willing to work with a team of people. Variety is what gets us ahead. America has stuck together and done it over and over again. I say, let's come together and do what it takes so we can go from the bottom and that we can go to the top. Let's become a blue state too. Let's get behind Jason Carter, and let's, like never before, support him financially, support him in other ways so that we can become a blue state, because it's easier to work together in a state where you have a governor that's thinking on the same things as you, and he's thinking about children first. Thank you.
In closing, I would like to say I appreciate the PTA for having this forum and inviting me to be a part of it. I don't want to start working for the people, for the teachers, for the students of Georgia. I want to continue to work for the teachers, students, and parents of the state of Georgia in public education. I want to continue to go under that gold dome and talk to legislators and give them the facts about if you want economic growth, you have to fund education. Because when corporations look at coming into our great state, they look at education first and foremost. I want them to know that it's so unfair. Since 1988, Georgia's public education has been shorted $1 billion for each year. When QBE was written, it said that every 3 years, it's a 90-page document, and in that 90-page document, it says that every 3 years that a committee would get together and reevaluate the funding and bring it up to where it needs to be. I'm here to tell you that has never been done. That needs to be done because it's part of that policy and that law. I want you to know that my husband is a 31-year veteran teacher. I have 4 children. Each one of them grew up and graduated from the public school system. My husband is one of 12. Each one of his siblings graduated from public schools. I'm one of 10. Each one of us graduated from public school. Public education is the best quality education that one can get if we just allow teachers to do their job and we give them the tools that they need to do their job. I promise you that I will continue to fight. I will be transparent and you'll be able to reach me. I hope you'll talk to me afterward.
I hope over tonight you've heard my heart. You can easily check out my credentials. They're at my website. But I wanted you to hear my heart, what's inside, my heart for young people. I'm absolutely passionate about helping young boys, young girls be successful both in the academic curriculum and in the curriculum of life. We've heard a lot about public education tonight. About 90% of the students in Georgia go to public education. I want to give you some good news. This is statewide information, and I think you ought to hear this because this is a statewide race. In 2012, there was one state in the country that improved on every national assessment. You probably didn't hear about this because bad news sells. Georgia went up on the SAT. Georgia went up on the ACT. Georgia went up on the NAEP, the National Assessment of Educational Progress, in reading, math, and science. Georgia went up with advanced placement scores. We are number 9 in the country. The percentage of our advanced placement over college level courses taught in high school, you score 3, 4, 5, you get college credit. Number 9 in the country. Any of y'all read about that? Probably not because it doesn't sell papers. It's true. We're number 2 in the country with our African American students taking and passing advanced placement courses. Education Week magazine, one of the most prestigious education publications in the country, ranked Georgia number 1 in the country, connecting early learning with K-12, with post-secondary, and the world of work. That is no accident. Now, I am not a status quo guy. We have not arrived, but we are moving in the right direction. If we stay the course with good leadership, we get the home, the school, and the community working together, great things are possible. Thank you.
Real quickly, one of the things I asked when I was asked to come was if some of my time could be used to answer questions, because I can sit up here and talk all night. I never have a shortage of anything to say, but I want to make sure nobody else had a question for me, because I would gladly yield my time to answer that question if anybody else had a question before I give my closing. Because, and if you have one, do you have a question?
I just want to know who, as far as the money that was put into the fund, why was there not an audit to make sure students have this, because my niece is in the 4th grade, and she was failing math because she couldn't bring home a book.
Okay.
She brought her grade up from a 61 to an 80 in 4 weeks with me and my brother, her father, and my mother helping her by what we were taught.
Okay, that's a good question. She's curious why those funds where they're not being used where they're allotted, why was that caught by an audit? Unfortunately, that's not something a state auditor would
No,
see.
but-
They come in and audit. However, our school board knew that happened. I hold our school board accountable 100% for those funds not being used where they should have been used. That money was allotted through different funds. It was allotted for our school board to use at their discretion. I hold our school board accountable. I do not think it's a state issue as far as a state audit. It's not an audit on a state level that this would have been seen or that. Now, it is worth pointing out, there are some issues that have been seen and flagged. And that's, a lot of that's things that you never see in public. So I want to make sure, I only have 30 seconds, but I will gladly stay after and answer as many questions that any of you have, any information that I can share with you, because I am not a politician by choice. I don't like the stigma that comes from that term. I am an advocate. Yes, I'm a politician because I'm in a political race, but I'm an advocate first and foremost. That will never change. Elected or not, I'm not going away. I will not be intimidated. I don't care how many calls I get at 2 o'clock in the morning threatening me or my family. I will not be intimidated by good old boy politics, and I will see a change for Lawrence County School System as a board member for District 1 or as a parent advocate. I dedicate my future to doing that, and that's not going to change come election day.
It's so hard being behind Stacy Brooks, because she knows everything to say, and she says it so well. And I'm not a politician. I am just a teacher trying to make a difference. But I am sick and tired of the Lawrence County Board of Education unfair practices. They have an unfair practice of awarding bids. They practice nepotism. They have budgeting practices that are not fair. And I think it is time to have a transparent board and to have board members who understand school dynamics, school curriculum, and the financial burden placed on the school personnel and taxpayers. At the beginning of my candidacy, and when I was thinking about becoming a board member, I had to convince myself that I have a right to learn, that my opinions do count. I have earned a right to make policies that affect our students and our teachers. Because a person has been on the board for several years, that does not mean that he is the best person for the job. I had to find the courage to stand up and speak against what I think is wrong and to advocate for what I think is right, because I am not a politician. And I have had plenty of time to watch Dr. Phil and Judge Judy in my retirement. And there's one thing that Dr. Phil said that has stuck with me that I want you to think about when you are thinking about voting for Lawrence County Board of Education. That the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior. And my prayer is that God grant me the courage to stand up for the things that I think are right and good, and wisdom to make the changes for things to be better, and patience to listen to those with different opinions from me, and grace to admit when I am wrong.